I apologize for my moves. It's SportsCenter with Jay and Dan, the at-home edition, brought to you by McDonald's. Today, we got our kids Happy Meals via McDelivery, and it was so seamless and beautiful, and they actually were happy when it was all over, because how can you not be happy after Happy Meals? We're thrilled that you joined us for this edition of the show. And Dan, Rob Gronkowski, he was already working at Fox. You thought he was done. Just when you thought he was out, they pull him back in.
That's right. He's going to go play with his good buddy Tom Brady. It was the big news in the NFL on Tuesday. Gronkowski is, well, he was formerly retired. He's going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Pat's also sending a 7th-round pick in exchange for a 4th-rounder. Gronkowski won 3 Super Bowls in New England before retiring following the 2018 season. We need plenty more on that, so let's go to ESPN's Sage Steele and Adam Schefter.
Adam, this deal seems to have gotten done very quickly. Can you give us any insight into when these trade discussions began?
Really, this week is when it intensified and picked up a tremendous amount of steam, Sage. But I think all along, when Tom Brady went to Tampa, he had to know in the back of his mind that Rob Gronkowski wanted to join him there. And right after he signed, there was an outpouring of support from players who wanted to come to Tampa and made it be known to the Buccaneers organization. And I remember speaking to some people, and they said, you would not believe the names of some of the people who want to come play with Tom Brady in Tampa at this time. And clearly, Rob Gronkowski was one of them, because I was told that Tampa is the only place that he would have considered coming out of retirement for, to go play with Tom Brady, to be reunited with a quarterback that he spent his entire career with. Once Tom Brady went there, he was willing to go to Tampa. And I think if Tom Brady had chosen to play in Los Angeles with the Chargers or Las Vegas with the Raiders or wherever it was, that Rob Gronkowski had a real chance to be sure to follow him to that destination. In this particular case, it happens to be Tampa. And just keep in mind, Sage, 2 years ago, the New England Patriots agreed to a trade that would send Rob Gronkowski to the Detroit Lions with a 2nd-round pick to get back a 1st-round pick and a 2nd-round pick. Gronk, when he found out he was going to Detroit, didn't want to go to Detroit because he wouldn't be playing with Tom Brady there, threatened to retire. The teams called off the trade. Gronk stayed in New England, won another Super Bowl, but then retired until Tom Brady went to Tampa.
What a dream season it's going to be in Tampa. So you got Brady, you got Gronk, and they're hosting the Super Bowl. Let's show our memorabilia. We have our Super Bowl Lombardi trophy signed by Gronk. Full circle.
And you have Chris Godwin. Dan, you have Mike Evans, the best receiving tandem in the league, already for Tom Brady in Tampa, just waiting for him. You add Gronk to the mix. This is an offense that is going to be incredible under Bruce Arians. Very exciting stuff to see. The only question is, Dan, are we going to have any football this fall? Because it would be a shame. Tom Brady is about 56 years old. Rob Gronkowski, I'm thrilled to see that he's healthy. He's passed his physical. He's ready to go. But, of course, he does have a history of injuries. So you really want to get these guys back on the field. So, come on, NFL football. We need you back in the fall. No fans. It probably doesn't matter at this point.
And they're going to be happy. I think they had enough of Grumpy Bill. So it's going to be a fresh start for both of them in Tampa.
Absolutely. It's going to be very exciting. Looking forward to it. And then Gronk can always go do the broadcasting thing a little later on, go back to Fox, hang out with our friend Chris Thompson, do that whole thing. Dan, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's actually a little bit of animosity, light animosity between some of the NHL players right now. The North American players, they're not skating. But in Europe, Dan, there are some players who are skating. That's not going over so well with the North American players. We get more from James Duthie and the guys in Insider Trading.
You know your insiders, Bob, Dregs, and Pierre. Obviously, the first baby step towards getting back to playing would be players actually skating. Tough to do when they're supposed to be in quarantine until April 30th, but there have been some players skating, Dregs. Explain.
Yeah, the skating in Sweden, a good bunch of them, including Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks. Now, we should make it clear, this is an NHL recommendation. It's not a directive. It is part of the medical protocol. But again, the local authorities, and in this case in Sweden, they allow for this type of activity. Players are allowed to skate. But I can tell you, there are some NHL players in North America who do not like the idea, given the competitive edge that you might see. And then what happens when these players are welcomed back to North America? No doubt about it, these players will be quarantined, and there are some guys who believe that the players will also face mandatory NHL testing.
Just an idea of all the logistical issues ahead for the National Hockey League. And while we wait and wonder to see what happens, the business of the game goes on. The Devils' coaching search well underway, Pierre?
Yeah, the only team to do so at this point during the season pause. Kind of intriguing. Gerard Gallant, according to our sources, interviewed last week by virtual manner, of course, James, not face-to-face, by Tom Fitzgerald. Now, Tom Fitzgerald himself also has an interim tag. He's still the interim GM for the Devils. Alan Nasruddin is the interim head coach, and he is a legit candidate as well. He'll be part of this process, but Tom Fitzgerald has spoken to a few candidates, not just Gerard Gallant, over the last little while. And why not? If you're the Devils, use this time here during the pause to start looking at next season. Now, the other teams with interim coaches, you've got Calgary, Dallas, Minnesota, and San Jose. None of those teams have started their coaching search or made any coaching decisions. In the case of the Flames and the Stars and the Wild, pretty obvious. Those teams could be in the playoffs potentially, so they're going to wait until after the season. The Sharks, Bob Boughner is a top candidate to remain head coach. But if and when they decide to interview other candidates, that decision has not been taken.
We remind ourselves and you all that nothing has been canceled in the NHL just yet, but in other places, of course, a ton has, including international hockey. And another casualty about to officially become reality, Bob?
That's right, James. There's been no official word yet, but there is expected to be in the next number of days, certainly within the week, that the Ivan Holinko Wayne Gretzky Invitational Tournament that is scheduled for this August in Edmonton is going to be canceled. No doubt about that. There's just too many logistical hurdles to overcome. So there goes, for the 2003 birth year, goes a major prestigious tournament that they would normally get to participate in. And for the NHL scouts, there goes the first big event on the 2021 draft scouting calendar. Now, we're also going to keep an eye on Hockey Canada over the next couple of weeks. They usually have under 17 camps, big under 17 camp at the end of August in preparation for November's under 17 World Championship. And then there's the World Junior Summer Showcase in August that usually goes in prep for the World Junior Championships at Christmas. Nothing official on that, but Hockey Canada is going to drill down on those dates over the next couple of weeks and see what can or can't be done.
And it's a long way down the road, but we remind you that the World Juniors are in Red Deer and Edmonton, slated for Boxing Day. And again, we hope things change by then, but no guarantee at this point in time. It's insider trading from TSN Hockey.
James, thank you so much. When we return on Jay and Dan, we'll tell you about the projected #1 overall pick in the NFL Draft Thursday. You're watching Jay and Dan on TSN, brought to you by McDonald's. Shout out to a couple of people. Sean Fitzgerald of The Athletic wrote a really nice article about our shows from home, and you can catch that on The Athletic. And then Simon Haupt of the Globe and Mail, Dan, he talked about us returning to television from our homes, and he called us the Midnight Bros. The Midnight Bros. What do you think of that? I dig it.
I like it. I love it. Some good stuff. I'll take that over other things I've been called. Hey, don't forget the NFL Draft is going on our air this week, Thursday and Friday. Joe Burrow, he's projected to go #1. You know how confident Vegas is, even though Vegas is closed, how confident the sports books are that he goes #1? If you bet $100,000, you'd have to bet just to win $100.
And by the way, Joe Burrow's dad played in the Canadian Football League. He threw for an average of a touchdown per quarter last season, capped it off with a record-setting performance, 6 TDs, 6 total TDs, 521 combined yards in the national championship, and a Heisman Trophy. He's going to Cincinnati. He's up to Cincinnati. Here's Kate Burnett.
Joined now by our Farhan Lalji. And Farhan, you have covered multiple college football championships for us, and you were there back in January when Joe Burrow won the national title. Can you describe just how incredible his rise has been to this first overall pick?
Yeah, I don't think the word meteoric would understate this, Kate. I mean, you've got to go all the way back to Doug Flutie to find a guy this far off the board that came in to win a Heisman, but he didn't win a national championship and go first overall in the NFL draft. So the rise is unbelievable. This guy did not have a draft grade by many of the analysts, or a seventh-round grade at best by many others. For him to go to #1 overall, it's amazing. And when you look at the season he had, you do have to put it in context, because LSU was a ground-and-pound team before. They got a new co-offensive coordinator in Joe Brady. He installed this wide open system. He had elite receivers, but you don't just walk into an offense like that and have a season where you get 6,000 yards of total offense and complete 76% of your passes and have 60 touchdowns, an NCAA record, without a lot of work. This guy took the team in the summer, made it his own, showed a tremendous amount of leadership to learn the offense, and he's got enough arm talent, but more importantly, he's got tremendous accuracy. He's got great vision and anticipation. He just understands the game at such a high level. He's a coach's kid, and understand that he's also not a kid. He's going to be 24 later this year, so when he gets taken #1 overall by Cincinnati, he's going to be able to walk in a little more mature than just a guy that was an underclassman that came out early, and he's going to be able to own that team and make an early impact.
Oh, Cincinnati will certainly love having him. By the way, I'm stealing this stat from ESPN's Field Yates. If Burrow goes #1, he will join Cam Newton as the only other player in the common era to win the Heisman, a national championship, and then be selected first overall in the same year. Just incredible. Thank you, our Farhan Lalji.
The NFL draft is Thursday right here on TSN. Roger Goodell announcing the picks from his basement, just like me and Chris Cuomo. That's this Thursday on TSN.
Hey, if you've been watching our shows for the past 2 weeks, you can see that we've started to reintroduce things that you normally see in the show. We've had to make sure that the show went smooth, and then we can get back to a lot more normal things, like sports clothes, which we also had on Monday's show.
That's right, Dan. And today's contestant, if you will, in sports clothes is maybe the team with one of the greatest histories of uniforms ever. And so when they decided to redo those uniforms, there was a lot of pressure on the Los Angeles Chargers. And I got to say, Dan, I think they delivered. These are beautiful uniforms. My only beef, Dan, if I could, I'm not sure about the numbers on the helmets. This isn't college football. This isn't college football. I know the San Diego Superchargers in the past have had numbers on their helmets, but nobody does that anymore. That's a little nitpicking. What are your thoughts on these brand new LA Chargers unis?
See, I really like them because I was expecting something else, because there were some other additions that were leaked a couple of weeks ago, and they were atrocious.
So that just goes to show you, never trust leaks. And if you get leaky, go to a doctor.
Coming up, we find out what we messed up. Time now for Who Delivered, presented by McDelivery. On April 21st, 2012, Philip Humber threw the 21st perfect game in MLB history. Humber didn't retire 8 straight batters in any other game that season, but he got 27 in a row in that start. Crazy thing is, Humber retired in 2016 with 16 career wins.
Fascinating. This Thursday, 7:30 Eastern, Canada-Russia gold medal game for the 2015 Worlds. At 11 Eastern, Canada-Finland gold medal game for the 2016 Worlds. Then Saturday, the 2007 World Junior Semi between Canada and the United States of America. Yes, that is the Jonathan Toews shootout game. Jonathan Toews, a friend of SportsCenter with Jay and Dan, which leads us to our very, very popular You Blew It segment, where we point out our errors. Dan, what did we mess up?
I didn't know Romo's age, but Tim got it to me in the nick of time, so I think we're okay on that. Aside from that,
Oh,
I think we did pretty good. You mentioned you got the Happy Meals for your kids on Tuesday. On our Jay and Dan podcast for Monday with Gino Retta, he joins us. I try my first ever filet of fish.
and
Oh, you saw my reaction? What a hidden gem
You
that is on
loved
the
it.
menu.
Bob, you are loving it, Dan. And if you check out the Jay and Dan podcast, you're going to be loving Gino Retta because we'd never had him on the podcast before. I couldn't believe that, Dan, and he was sensational.
That's right. He talked about the early days when you actually worked on the row when he was an anchor on SportsCenter. You and producer Tim.
We were the interns when we arrived. Tim and I were the interns. And his career's gone downhill ever since. So long.